Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending from where you are getting us from. Welcome to this series. This video is specifically for people in Zambia or any Zambians across the globe, but have got their base, their background, family houses, family home, relatives in Zambia. We want to discuss how the ZESCO progressive tariffs can actually be the driver for the investment into residential solar PV system. So what we want to articulate, to explain, to describe, to make clear is how you can actually transform the electricity costs based on the ZESCO progressive tariffs into a solar PV solution which is bankable, that can be attract investment either from yourself, colleagues, the financial institution, banks, lenders mentioned. So we actually show and tell you that the way the tariffs has been structured in progressive nature actually is a big drive for massive investment when it comes to residential solar PV system. Despite the current scenario, we don't have load shedding at the moment, but the structure of the tariffs will actually drive you to have an investment in solar system. So to begin with, as part of some of the videos that you'll find, you see that since November 2025, there has been new approved residential tariffs. And these residential tariffs actually are unlocked with the more consumption that you have of units. So you have got the 4 bands for those that are just watching this, but others who have watched the other series on ZESCO progressive tariffs understand this. So you have got the 4 bands. Band 1, band 2, band 3, and band 4. So depending on how many units that you use, you unlock the next band. So in such a way, your consumption are actually the ones that unlocks the cost of energy as you move on, as you increase your consumption. We have also looked at the scenario where if we use the base band, which is 0.35 Zambian kwacha per unit as a base, and compare it with the other bands, we see that your increase in consumption will unlock band 2 at the cost of 186% of band 1. The cost in band 3 is unlocked at a cost of 591% increase of the first band. And the 4th band is unlocked at 886% increase of the first band. So we see that as you consume more energy, as you move from one band to the next, you have incremental pricing per block, and which is shown by the different percentages that we can see. So we see that progressive tariffs actually means that the more you consume, the more you pay. If we show this illustration, we see that if we analyze the consumption per month, where we've got the electricity consumption, which is units, from 100 to about 1,000 100 units, and also the cost of electricity in Zambian kwacha, we see that it's a progressive in nature. This is why it is called the progressive electricity tariff, because the more you increase, if you increase from 100 to 200, even correspondingly, the price increases. But the more you increase in your consumption, even in terms of the cost, the higher that you actually pays. And then if we look at the progression for 12 months and also progression for 60 months, that also shows that if you consume, for example, 100 units, which is the lower cost, you actually pay about 420 Zambian kwacha per year. And that only translates to about 2,100 Zambian kwacha in 5 years. But if we compare for someone who is consuming 500 plus units, 500 is about 11,568 within a space of 12 months, and that jumps to about 15,708 Zambian kwacha per month. So this already highlights that the more units that you actually consume, you pay more. But to illustrate that this progressive nature of the tariffs actually is the driver that should make you invest in solar PV system, we utilize an average consumption of 600 units per month. And if we show this table, which shows you the different bands in which your 600 units per month actually stand. The first 100 units stands in the first band. The next 100 units will be in band 2. And the next 200 units will sit in band 3. And the next 400 units will sit in band 4. So which means if you consume 600 units, you actually sit in all the bands of the progressive tariffs. So this actually translates to about 35 Zambian kwacha for band 1, 100 Zambian kwacha for band 2, 484 Zambian kwacha for band 3, and 690 Zambian kwacha for band 4. So you can also see that moving within the bands, you have got that incremental that can be exponential in nature if you actually look at. As I had earlier shown you that it actually starts to rise up sharply as you increase your consumption. So corresponding with the 12 months, you see that your consumption becomes 420 for band 1, 1,200 for the units in band 2, and 5,808 for the units in band 3, and 8,280 for the units in band 4. So which gives you the 15,708 Zambian kwacha in a year, translating to 78,540 Zambian kwacha in 5 years. I've actually given you this illustration and also the key elements in terms of cost, as this will speak into the other aspects that we'll actually discuss, highlight, and illustrate. So looking at the different scenarios, here I give you a picture of where the 600 units actually sit. But then, of course, what is different is if we combine the total of the different scenarios. In here, I showed you it's about 1,309 Zambian kwacha per month. But this is constituted in the different bands. So if we use a different way to show this and calculate the average cost of the units that you actually use. So we see that about 218 Zambian kwacha per unit constitute the consumption, the average consumption of 600 units. So if you want to look at it in a different way, it means that for every 600 units that you consume, you pay 2 kwacha, 18 ngwe. But if you jump to 700 units, the average also changes correspondingly. This is also highlighted in red when it comes to the units, the total cost per month, the total cost for 12 months, and the total cost for 5 years. So this is the cost that you actually incur as a customer who is connected to ZESCO. And we know that in Zambia, majority of the residential customers are actually supplied by the national utility company, which is ZESCO. So if you don't do anything and you consume 600 units per month on average, what is actually the cost of doing nothing? What is the cost of doing nothing, provided that your household consumed 600 units? I give you an example in terms of a household. It could be in terms of a shop. It could be in terms of a salon. It could be in terms of anything. But of course, the catch is if you consume 600 units and you do nothing, we are saying that per month, this will cost you 1,309 Zambian kwacha. For 12 months, this will cost you 15,708 Zambian kwacha on average, with a consumption of about 7.2 kilo units. And in 5 years, this translates to a consumption of 36 kilo units, which is 78,540. For 8 years, it becomes 125,664. In 10 years, it's 157,080 Zambian kwacha. And in 20 years, this translates to about 314,000 Zambian kwacha, 160. So the cost of doing nothing is that you pay for the electricity to ZESCO. And if you don't do nothing, then it means you don't have an investment in a solar PV solution. So the cost of doing nothing is that you will not own any asset. So going forward, it means this only remains a cost to you. It will be a recurring cost every month that you have to pay. That is the cost of doing nothing, no solar PV. But then you decide to look at it in a different way. The more I consume, the more I pay. So I can do something. Already we've seen that the price or the cost of electricity is increasing with the more you consume. So this is an indication that the progressive tariffs are actually a driver. You do not need load shedding for you to actually decide that I want to invest in a solar system. The tariff alone is enough for you to invest in a solar system. So which means these tariffs are actually a driver for you to make an investment into a solar PV solution. So this becomes an alternative that you actually use. So when you do that, depending on the level of investment, either you supply all the loads in your house or an establishment, then you have almost zero cost when it comes to the cost of electricity. But of course, you can actually do investment in stages, taking out a particular load. For example, this month you can invest in lighting. Next month you can invest in entertainment. The other month you can invest in other loads specific. So you actually build in steps. So each step that you do, you actually reduce your cost of electricity. So when you reduce your cost of electricity, since we know that the progressive nature is actually in bands, so you can actually make an investment that will take out 200 units from ZESCO. So what you save is the cost in band 4. You save 690 Zambian kwacha and move into band 3 as the maximum threshold. When you invest and take away 400 units, you'd have actually taken out the combined total of the two bands, which is 1,000 plus. Then you see that band 1 and band 2 just add to about around 135 on average. So this you can actually keep. So which means you reduce, you can actually move from the higher band, the higher cost by your investment in an alternative, reduce the cost and come and border around band 1 and band 2. Ideally, you can actually take out the entire 600 units of electricity that you use from the utility and actually have got around a zero cost. So this is why we are saying the tariffs that were introduced that are progressive in nature are a big driver. They should drive you to the nearest financial institution, to the nearest solar PV supplier, installer for you to have this investment. And also looking at it from the financial standpoint, this investment that you do in a particular solution, a particular alternative solution of solar PV, actually means you own an asset. So you have got asset ownership, which is added to either a reduced expense of your monthly electricity, yearly electricity, and future projection, or an almost zero expense. So which means you can have your main system as the alternative, which is solar PV solution, and just have utility as a backup, which will drastically reduce your cost to be around 100 Zambian kwacha would be maybe the maximum that you would pay. So this illustration based on 600 units. So this is the cost of doing something. You either reduce the cost of energy or you almost cross to zero cost of energy plus an added asset. So an asset is actually something that can actually generate an income for you. Because we saw that the cost of doing nothing was actually 1,309 Zambian kwacha per month. So if we move on, the cost of doing something actually is that you invest in a solar PV system. So as opposed to paying the utility company, which is ZESCO in Zambia, you actually start to pay yourself because you own the asset that will produce this energy for yourself. So the return of 1,309 Zambian kwacha, if it's your own money that has been invested in the system, means you start paying yourself. Over a year, this is 15,708 Zambian kwacha paying yourself. Over 5 years, that is 78,540. And then, on average, ideally, looking at the price variations of solar systems and understanding that the Zambian government opened up to almost everyone can even buy a solar system from the supplier direct. So if you invest 5 years of your cost of energy into this solar system, you actually get an internal rate of return that is 20%. If your investment in a solar system is actually a cost less than 5 years, what we are saying is the internal rate of return is actually more than 20%. So the cost of doing something is an investment in a solar PV system that starts to pay yourself. So you already start to have a return if you invested in. What does this mean for the potential of this investment or a solar PV solution being bankable? It means that you can go to a financial institution, you can go to a lending institution, show them the numbers, and they will be able to invest. They will be able to borrow you money that you can invest. So which means that if you borrow money to invest in a solar system, you can actually start to pay. Instead of paying ZESCO, you pay the lending institution. So which means after some time, you can actually have a complete payment. It pays out. You are free. The freedom comes in. It means additional cost that comes in that you should have paid to the utility company actually becomes your profit. So what we are saying is the cost of doing something with the progressive tariffs as a driver actually gives you an asset which at the end of the day can pay you if you invest in, also can enable you to pay to any lending institution that can fund or finance your solar PV system. And at a certain point, you would have paid, and then it becomes returns to you. It becomes wealth. It becomes an income that will generate money for you. So if we look at it in such a way, and I earlier alluded to the fact that from experience, 5 years of your cost of energy can actually be invested into a solar PV system. So if we take an investment of 78,540, which at a certain exchange rate, of course, this can change, but as of almost today, this is about 4,200 US dollars. This is enough to give you a system of 9 panels, either 550 to about 585, 590 watts, a 6.2 hybrid inverter, and a lithium-ion battery storage of about 15 to 16 kilowatt hours. So that's about 16 units. So this can actually start to pay you. So if we equate this to an investment, for example, in a bond, a unit trust or something, an investment vehicle, giving you a return of 22%, it means at 3.5 years or 3 years, 6 months, you have a break-even. Your cost of investment becomes equal to the growth of your investment. So which means at 3 years, 6 months, with an investment of 78,540 and a 22% annual return on investment, this actually pays you. So after that period, everything is pure profit to you. You start to accumulate wealth. And if you continue to invest this accumulated wealth as a result of solar converting recurring electricity payment, it becomes a yielding asset. It's an asset that you have that is capable of paying you, that is capable of solving some of your financial issues. If we look at another aspect where it's an investment paying 17.3%, this would actually break even at 3 years, 8 months. So an investment of the cost of energy or electricity as a result of the progressive tariffs that you would have paid for 5 years can actually be realized in 3 years, 8 months at a rate of 17.3%. So we come back to the question to say, are the ZESCO progressive tariffs a driver? Yes, they are a driver. And it's a very good decision that you look at it in this way so that this can push you to actually invest in solar PV systems. The cost of electricity might increase, so you can actually eliminate it. So the cost of doing nothing is a huge cost for you over time. And the entire scenario gives you an opportunity for wealth generation. Your asset can actually start to pay you. And an investment of 5 years of your cost of electricity to ZESCO gives you a 20% internal rate of return per year, which is very important. It means this situation is bankable. So what we are saying is, for individuals, our focus has been on individuals, but this can also be expanded to farms and lodges for the purpose of reduced lifetime costs on the cost of energy, cost stability, wealth creation, and also build generational wealth. In terms of farms, you can protect your productivity, operational continuity, energy security, and having a very high edge on the energy risk. On lodges, you can improve your reliability, uptime, and also brand sustainability credentials, because today we don't want greenhouse gas emission solutions. We want clean energy. But also the numbers that we have looked at gives you a situation where banks, financial institutions, or yourself can be able to finance this asset. It's financeable. It's an asset that is already showing that returns are backed by predictable yield and cash flow, because you pay to ZESCO. You can start to pay to yourself. Make a decision. What I'm telling you today is that the progressive tariffs are a driver. They are bankable. Lending institution can finance them. Make a very good decision to invest in a solar PV system. So in addition, as I mentioned that I've presented a very long chain explaining on electricity progressive tariffs. You can actually find them on the YouTube channel, Enock, Dr. Enock Mulenga and North Voltage Engineering. Thank you very much. You can transform your electricity cost into a PV solution. And we know that ZESCO progressive tariffs are a very huge and large driver for residential solar PV investment. Thank you very much, and see you in the other series of videos that we make for this YouTube channel. Thank you very much.